Today on Hebrew Vocab Boost, we're going to talk about a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Shalom and welcome back to Hebrew Vocab Boost. Today we're going to talk about the shoresh Zayin-Hay-Yod, or some might call it Zayin-Hay-Hay. A quick side note, and I know it's early in the video to already be going off on a tangent, but whenever the third letter of a root is a yod, you will also get a lot of people, books, schools, organizations who claim it is a hey. When we are identifying a root, we are identifying an underlying sound or letter that might not manifest itself the same way in all of the words that are based on the root. So when you have this third root letter that could be a yod or a hey, in many forms it's a hey, and in many forms it's a yod. And so the question is the root letter a hey that sometimes becomes a yod, or is it a yod that sometimes becomes a hey? This is way beyond my pay grade, but I just follow the academia, and they say that the root letter is yod. So in the Tanakh, the only words from this shoresh are ze, zot, and ele. Ze and zot both mean this, and ze is the masculine, and zot is the feminine. And ele means these. Zot has two alternate forms, which are zo and zu, and they're both spelled the same unless you write it with nikud. So zot, zo, and zu are all used completely interchangeably. It's just a matter of personal preference. But zo and zu are not found in the Tanakh. And also, ele is technically the masculine form of these, and elu is the feminine form, but elu is not in the Tanakh, or at least I couldn't find it, and it's not used so much in modern Hebrew either. Both in the Tanakh and in modern Hebrew, any of these words can be used as a pronoun, so they can stand alone as the subject of a sentence. For example, I can say, Ze Abba Sheli, meaning this is my dad. Ze, or this, is the subject, and then we have a be verb in English, is, which doesn't exist in the present tense in Hebrew. And then we have Abba Sheli, which means my dad, which is the subject complement. You don't need to note these big words, but it's basically the rest of the predicate. And the first time the word ze shows up in the Tanakh is in Genesis 5:1, which says in part, Ze Sefer Toldot Adam, which my Tanakh translates to, this is the record of Adam's line. So we can see that we have the same sentence structure. But all of these words, ze, zot, ele, can also go with a noun. And it's interesting to me how it's structured in Hebrew. In most of the languages I've studied, a word meaning this is a determiner. It acts very much like the word the, and is just a little bit more specific. This place instead of the place. And part of what I mean by that is that when we use the word that means this, it takes the place of the word the. You do not use both of them together. But in Hebrew, when paired with a noun, these words act very much like an adjective. They come after the noun, just like an adjective. They match the noun in number and gender, just like an adjective. And because they are specific, traditionally, they always have had the ha article attached to them. So this phrase is from Genesis 19:13, and we can see that this place is hamakom hazeh in Hebrew. In a Hebrew noun phrase, if the noun is definite, then the hey prefix that means the attaches not only to the noun, but also to the adjectives that go with the noun. And so we can see that ze follows all of these rules in a sentence like this. And it is still true today in modern Hebrew. Now, I have recently seen noun phrases written without the hey hayediah, the definite article. In phrases like this, the hey is missing from both the noun and the word that means this or these. So, hamakom hazeh could also be said makom zeh. It would still get the et because the use of zeh makes it specific. So I'm not sure what the difference is. I think that it might just be stylistic. The traditional way with the hey hayedias seems to be way more prevalent. But I do hear it and read it both ways and pretty frequently. And all of this is true for all of the forms. Ze, zot, zo, zu, ele, and elu. All right. There are also question words with this shoresh that have been around since biblical times or at least post-biblical times. Eze and ezo both mean which, and they combine the question prefix e with the singular ze or zo to mean which, as in which one. In the Tanakh, it is two separate words, and it is only seen in the masculine, e, ze. But in post-biblical times, we get the one word eze, the feminine ezo, and the plural elu. Now, I often see eze used with plural nouns, both masculine and feminine. So I think using elu might be a bit more formal. And there's no ezot or ezu. Those two words do not exist. And these words ask the question, which one? But they can also be used in modern Hebrew as an exclamation, meaning what, whatever it is, or how much, whatever. And so I hear people all the time saying, is a kef, meaning how much fun, or such fun. You'll see something like, Eze yeled yafe, or Eze yeled gadol, what a big boy, what a beautiful boy, stuff like that. But the real fun began when the father of modern Hebrew, Eliezer ben Yehuda, got involved. Back in biblical times, there weren't really such concepts as identity, identification, identical words like that. So in the late 1800s, when Ben Yehuda was determined to make Hebrew a viable language for speaking about the modern world, he did what he does best. He coined terms for these ideas out of the native word that was used to identify things, zeh. So in modern Hebrew, there are three verbs based on this shoresh. There's the PL lezahot, which means to identify something. And then there's zoha, which is the passive pu'al of lezahot. Pu'al verbs do not have infinitives, so we name them by their past tense, third person singular masculine form, the who form. So zoha literally means he was identified. And then finally, there's lehizdahot, which means to identify oneself. And lehizdahot can also mean to identify with something or with someone. And of these three verbs, I'm pretty sure I've only come across the first one in the wild, lezahot. I have an article about a device that can identify eye diseases, and another one about the new wave of fake meat and how people can easily identify fake meat from real meat. By way of nouns, we have two shmot peula, or verbal nouns. From lezahot, we get zihui, which means identification. And this is not let me see your identification. This is the process of identifying something. Zihui kol is a compound word meaning voice recognition, as in the act of identifying somebody by their voice. And hizdahut is the act of identifying oneself, or it can mean identifying with something, or even empathy. If you can identify with somebody, you probably have empathy for them. Zehut is your identity. And so Teudat Zehut is your identity card. So if someone needs your identification, they're going to ask for your Teudat Zehut. As for adjectives, we have Zeheh, which means identical, and Mezoheh, which is an adjective meaning identified. All right, so that's it for today. Now you know a whole bunch of words related to the concept of identity. If you have any questions or feedback, please leave it in the comments and I will do my best to respond. And if you want to see more about the words from this shoresh, check out my TikTok channel, Hebrew Help with Sapir. Hit like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe and press the notification bell if you want to see more. Lehitraot ba'pa'am ha'ba'ah. See you next time.